or Pawpaw. Then I might lose half the room here, but I grew up in love with the University of Michigan, based on growing up in a very thick Notre Dame neighborhood in Chicago. Kind of took that contrarian approach and am now a Michigan 03. During that time, I fell in love with the area. We spent more times driving around Webster and Dexter and hear from friends who lived in the area. And as I knew I was going to go into live entertainment, it was always my dream. I always kind of imagined that farm-based venue that I wanted to open. And thankfully, as I moved into my career, it started over the last 20 years to become far more reality. I work in live events. I've always had a passion for curating these cultural experiences where there previously was an underserved community, whether that's a bluegrass festival in the Chicago winter, whether that's the first festival that brought together electronica and hip hop in a kind of underserved community 15 years ago, when that was becoming a major part of the music world, and more recently creating documentary films about the roles the music festival world plays in the lives of our neighbors, our family members, our colleagues, and whatnot. And as legal cannabis has become a reality in a very, very reasonable way in this state and in this part of the state that I have long been in love with, it has allowed me the opportunity to look very seriously into taking something I love back to a place I love, and doing so in an industry that is obviously needs it, an industry in need, frankly. And so the next thing I'll ask you to do, you've heard enough about me, the next thing I ask you to do is forget the word Moshki. That is my little entity name, but there will never be a venue named Moshki. That's not a good name. We're still naming what we're trying to do. So ultimately, most people in this room understand at least the argument for the positive outcomes associated with legal cannabis, whether from a mental health, public health, personal development, pain management aspect. And I kind of ask you to think about, imagine a regulated alcohol industry without bars, without being able to drink at a bar, drink at a restaurant, have a beer at a ball game, have a glass of wine at a theater. That would frankly lead to both consumer and business problems. You're going to have more illegal activity, law breaking, a gray market, a black market will subsist where there isn't a necessity for one if that was permitted. And in my career, I've had a very front row seat to the economic and cultural benefit of alcohol supporting event models and hospitality models. We all probably understand that there can't be a concert, restaurant, bar in this world that's not propped up in some way, shape, or form by whether alcohol revenue or the sponsorship that comes from the brands that are on sale there. And what I would love is for legal cannabis, frankly, to have the same opportunity to support the local arts, local live entertainment, local theater, community and industry in the same way alcohol has. And to do so has been made far easier lately with the emergency rules here in Michigan. So as you know, they've outlined, or as you probably know, they've outlined additional license types. Consumption establishment, a place where the sampling and consumption of cannabis can happen, and sales by licensed retailers, not the venue itself, but people like Nate and the brands for sale there, as well as an event organizer. So you have the license for the establishment and the license for the person putting on the event. And it solves a business and consumer problem. Obviously, from a business perspective, you see people like Nate and the brands they sell have very few opportunities to educate consumers about their products. Someone has to literally go in the store. Obviously, marketing is very targeted. They cannot reach consumers in an effective way because they can't sample consumers. And we all know that obviously understanding the use of something, understanding that occasion, having that educational opportunity to try something in a setting you're comfortable with people you're comfortable with, is necessary both for the normalization and the destigmatization to make more people understand the benefits and have those positive outcomes. It's also necessary for the business people to grow their brands, to grow their businesses in this community, and do so in a way that is frankly fair to what is now a legal business in this state, whether you're a provisioner, cultivator, whatever it may be. And then on the consumer side, we have, you're only allowed to consume in your home, and that obviously disproportionately affects lower income communities that are either renting and do not have that opportunity as, as it exists. You do not have that public or social consumption opportunity. You can't, frankly, have an edible that you just sampled from one of the many providers at the live event and sit down and enjoy your theater, or enjoy your comedy show, or your chef's dinner, or your glamping experience. We'll see how many places this can fit. So what's our mission? Host, produce, and normalize cannabis-infused events via an intersection with all the things we already go to: live music, comedy, chef's dinners, glamping experiences, theaters, fun runs, whatever it may be. And to do so, we're looking to open a farm-based venue. There's a property we're looking at down the street. That's the reason I'm obviously here today, because this is the neighborhood I want to be in. This is the place I spent time 20 years ago, and since, whether it's renting a house around here and spending a weekend, or really kind of envisioning what this venue could look like in a community that frankly has a lot of opportunities for revitalization and redevelopment of existing farm structures. And you'll see we're looking at a lot of horse farms and horse arenas that you guys know better than me are all over. So we're thinking of one property, 3 venues on that property, 3 small event spaces on that property. Something that would allow for the on-site sale, sampling, and consumption. So once again, we don't touch the plant. We are just a rental venue where existing licensees, be it brands or provisioners, can come sample and sell to consumers during our pre-existing events. 40 annual events, meaning this is a venue that is open 40 days a year. That gives plenty of time to allow that venue to be used by the community for educational events. We want to invest in the community. We only want to be somewhere where somebody wants us, and somebody wants to use that venue elsewhere, and obviously, join in the benefit that can come from having this in your community. So once again, just to reiterate, what are we? We're not a dispensary, we're not a farm or cultivator, we're not always open. You can't show up at 9:30 in the morning and sit down on the couch and smoke a joint. There's a place for consumption lounges like that, and there will be those all over the state, and that's a great thing. We aren't that. We're a 4-season event venue. The best analogy, and you'll see pictures, a lot of you have been to like a wedding at a fancy bar. Yeah. That on steroids. But when I say steroids, I don't mean massive. I mean events no bigger than 4,000 to 5,000 people, but most events in that kind of sweet spot of 100 to 500 folks. And once again, I always like to say that any issues we've ever had in the past in my life in events have come from one of 2 things, or a combination of the 2. Alcohol and minors, neither of which will be here. So, you guys in Michigan maybe know this, but what I love about Michigan is it took what California has done and improved upon it and created a more reasonable path to licensure. And so in California, before last fall, you could only throw events on these agricultural associations or county fairgrounds. And then they moved to something more similar to what the emergency rules just laid out. And you're now seeing the exact high-end events and high-end occasions that are needed to, frankly, make people more comfortable with the legalization of cannabis and the positive outcomes it can lead to in your lives of people you care about, and frankly, to the economic environment in your community. This is a real this is a real cannabis event. This is an event we would throw on our property. This is a company I've been involved with for a couple of years. It's a high-end tea party. It's exactly what it looks like. Those are cannabis-infused teas. You're taking that winery model in a lot of ways, minus any of the production that happens on it, and creating those types of experiences based around infused products. So like I mentioned, we have you guys have created the emergency rules that lay out a very true and reasonable path to doing this the right way. You've heard enough about me, but this takes a village, and the other people involved are people from the cannabis industry, the live event and venue world, the ad agency world, the legislative world, the people that wrote the social use laws in Oregon and Colorado, have been a part of this in order to take the best practices of what they learned in those states and those processes to Michigan, so that we are obviously, like you said, like we've all kind of talked about, it's advantageous to watch other people kind of learn, make the mistakes, learn from the bumps in the road along the way. So what's the space? We're focused on two spaces I kind of said up front. I'm kind of in love and familiar with two parts of the state where I've spent most of my time. Southwestern Michigan, as a Chicagoan, gosh knows I've spent a lot of time there. And then obviously here around Ann Arbor. I'm partial here because I can frankly envision the business better around here because of the communities it can pull from. Obviously we have, all my friends settled in Royal Oak and then moved up to Farmington or something. I'm forgetting some of the names now, but you have the collar communities that now all my 35 to 40-year-old friends have moved into with their families. You have the college students around here. You also have obviously Detroit Metro people, coming to Ann Arbor for concerts at Hill Auditorium or whatever from elsewhere in the Detroit Metro area. And we're looking at structures that are, 10 plus acres. You see one here that you guys can probably identify. I'm not going to out anybody's address here, but these are, a lot of these are horse farms or old orchards, apple orchards. And unfortunately, as you guys once again probably know better than I have, and I've learned more recently, there's trouble for the horse farm economy. There has been a bottom that's fallen out of that, and there's a lot of property that folks are looking for a positive outcome from. People looking to retire off of those properties, and our hope is that we can take something that would fall into an unfortunate situation and not be able to benefit that landowner and frankly give them a positive out, a positive exit from their horse farm. And the reason being is because imagine that the main arena becomes that hangar-shaped main concert hall. It's a very obvious why we would target that type of property. And then obviously the additional acreage adds to the availability and the kind of modular aspects of creating different events on site. So this is a turnkey pop-up space. These, like I said, this is that high-end wedding venue, event venue. We're revitalizing a farm-based structure. You're going to have, it will be completely turnkey, state-of-the-art sound, lights, all of that stuff. It could be rented by an ad agency tomorrow, a local concert promoter, big or small, and an event can be thrown in there in a very turnkey way without bringing in additional additional sound and lights. You're not going to have semis coming down the street with staging every week or anything like that. This will be a turnkey venue off in a big set of property, a big piece of property without the associated noise bleed or any of that. Like I mentioned, we'll be kind of drawing from different audiences based on where we end up, but we have a track record of frankly throwing very diverse and inclusive events in these niche environments. Conceptual examples again, we are trying to create an elevated cannabis experience. Key to the destigmatization of this product is people seeing that it can escape from the stoner imagery and the kind of glorified trade shows that now exist as the only outposts for licensed events. How does something like this make money? Exactly how you'd imagine. Ticket revenue, 20 ticketed events a year that are open to the public. About another half of those will be rental situations from ad agencies or brands or folks looking to use the venue for ultimately a marketing purpose for their retailer brand or their experiential brand, or CPG brand, consumer packaged good brand, sorry for the dorky lingo there. And then beyond that, what we are going to see is no differently than so-and-so consumer brand, whether it's the new fruit punch or the new macaroni and cheese microwave pack. They throw events in licensed in venue spaces now where you have a beer at the marketing event. Those non-cannabis brands are going to start seeking out cannabis licensed spaces to throw their events because frankly, people are preferring to align their brands with the cannabis industry more so than the alcohol industry, increasingly so, and you're seeing that obviously in some of the states that are further ahead. And obviously venue rental, event management fees that come from someone renting that venue, and then the sponsorship of the brands and the dispensaries and the ancillary product categories that need that marketing opportunity, need to get in front of prospective consumers, and therefore will also be providing the actual products that will be available at the event. So to look at what a calendar would look like for an event venue like this, the main things I love to come across is never more than 4 events in a month, and never more than 5 to, let's say, 7,000 people at an event. The huge majority of the events, 1,000 to 1,500 people, which is a smaller crowd when you see it than you would ever imagine. It is you know, it's not a Pine Knob event. It's not called Pine Knob anymore, is it, guys?
That's fine.
DTE,
We call it Pine Knob.
that's like 50 to 70,000 people if they're doing all the camping and all the, so nothing like that. Small, intimate, high-end events. Not to say there won't be concerts, just far more intimate ones. And you'll see what these businesses can look like in a second, but I want to reiterate that while this is not something the alcohol industry does, because no one's asking them to, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't be. And the reason they're not doing it is because we have 80 years of people thinking going to a concert and drinking your face off and getting home somehow is fine. And I'm not going to sit here and comment on how that's handled, but we will handle it in the way this industry needs to handle it, because we know we are kind of behind the eight ball. The stigmatization is strong. As Sandy just spoke through, we have an uphill battle. And so at every event that would ever be at this venue, you're going to have one of these three options. There'll be on-site lodging, obviously for a 7,000